So you may be wondering, why does this run right out of the box? That is because of conventions that were used when the app was created. And when you are using MVC, you are going to hear a phrase, convention over configuration. Or you might hear it coding by convention. And a convention is simply a framework default. It's designed to reduce the number of decisions that developers have to make. And it allows you to create your apps faster. So in ASP.NET Core MVC, customization can occur at a lot of different levels. So even though the framework makes assumptions regarding your decisions, you are allowed to adjust the configuration so it meets your needs. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of the basic conventions that are used. And I already mentioned some of them. So when you create a controller, the beginning of the name can be whatever you want, but it should always end in the word controller. Okay, and all controllers are stored in the controllers directory. Anything that the user needs to look at goes into the views or view directory. And the views go with specific controllers. So anything that we have in the home view folder is going to go with our home controller. And if we open up the home controller and we take a look, you'll see it says return view. It says it in a couple different places. Okay. And if you look, we have an index method and a privacy method. And then it says return view. So this is another convention, okay, because we are in the home controller. And if we go through and run the code for our index method, what it's going to return is it's automatically going to go to the index.cshtml page in the home view directory. Okay, so here when we say return view, it automatically goes to this page. And if we are executing privacy, so when we selected privacy from the menu and we saw the privacy page, what happened was that it went through this little action method. And because we were in the privacy action method, it automatically went to the privacy.cshtml page that's in that home views folder. And that is what we saw. When you are working with an MVC app, you can go directly to a controller and an action method. So these methods that return action results are called action methods. Okay, and you can go directly to the controller and the action method. So if I run this app, if I wanted to go to privacy, I could do /home/privacy, and I'd go directly to that section of the controller, which then routes me to the proper view. And if I wanted to go to home and index, I can directly do that. So it goes to the controller and the action method, which then sends you to the correct view. So what I'm going to see once I press enter is the view itself. So I'm typing in controller action method, and then what I'm looking at is the view. So we've talked about controllers, models, and views. So hopefully you have kind of a generic idea of what they do, what their purpose is. There are some additional folders in here that we are going to discuss. And the www root folder, let's expand that out. So looking in this, you are going to see things that you recognize, right? We have a CSS folder, we have a JS folder, and then we have a library folder. So if we expand out the library folder, this is where the Bootstrap files, the jQuery, all of our library files are located. If we expand out CSS, you can see that there is a site CSS file. And if you open this, okay, this is, normal CSS. And then you can see that we have a site.js file as well. So basically anything that you are creating that's going to go into your page for your website should go into this www root folder. So if you have fonts that you want to use, if you have images, okay, anything like that, it should go in www root. Then you'll notice there is a properties folder. So if we expand that out, you'll notice that we have a JSON file. And this basically has the settings that describe how a project can be launched. So you can open it and look at it. Okay, and you can see it's using localhost. It's talking about what port to use. And this is for IIS. Okay, we didn't use IIS when we launched, so it actually came down here and used these settings. And I'm going to close that. Another thing that we're going to take a look at. So you can see that there is a file called program.cs. This is a C# file. And what this contains is the startup. So this is a little different than the previous version of MVC. So the version that is not .NET Core didn't have this. And so the starting point for all of the .NET Core MVC apps is program.cs. And you'll notice that we have a main here, and this is where it starts. And that is why we get that little dialog run box when we launch our app, because it is starting here. And then you can see it's instructed to use startup. Okay, and startup is the next thing that we are going to be taking a look at. So let's go ahead and open up that one. So startup, this is where you put all of your configuration code. The reason that it goes to the home controller and the index is because of routing. And in here, is the default routing configuration. And you can see that right in this section. So this is the name default. The pattern that it is using is the home controller, the index action method. And then you'll notice that there is a little variable ID with a question mark. So basically, if we wanted to pass data to our index action method, we can do that. We just have to do a slash and include whatever data we wanted to pass. And the controller would bring that in as the ID variable contents. And the question mark there means that it may or may not be filled in. So it's not required. And so this default route is included in the configure method, and the configure method is required. Okay, and if we take a look at different things that are in here, it's telling it we're going to use routing, we are going to use authorization, okay, and up here, basically it's checking to see if we're in development mode or not, because if we are not in development mode, then it's going to implement some error handling. Okay, this little section is required. The section above it called configure services is not required. Okay, but we do have something in it. And we'll take a look at both of these more in depth later in the course, because you are going to learn how to add services and you're going to learn how to do some customizing for routing and other things.